Hi, I'm Steve.
And I'm Cassidy. Today we're going to show you how to make cranberry phyllo cheesecake for a nutritious and delicious dessert. This recipe only has 192 calories per serving, 7 grams total fat, 4 grams saturated fat, 18 grams of carbohydrates, 1 gram of fiber, and 4 grams of protein.
We're using phyllo dough today because it has a lower fat content than the crust that you would normally be using for a cheesecake.
That and the reduced fat cream cheese we'll be using makes this a great alternative to a regular cheesecake.
So before we get started, we want to make sure that we clean up all our countertops and make sure that our utensils are sanitized. And also, don't forget to wash your hands.
This will prevent the spread of germs and help keep your food and family safe.
So for this cranberry cheesecake, we're going to be using 1 cup of fresh or frozen cranberries. You can use either depending on the seasons, just whichever one works for you. We're going to use a half a cup of sugar, a quarter cup 2 times, 1 tablespoon of orange juice, 1 8-ounce package of reduced fat cream cheese, vanilla, buttery cooking spray, phyllo dough, as well as 2 eggs. Okay, in order to separate out your egg, you want to take and crack it on a bowl and do it real well all the way around so you can open it up nicely. And then you just open it up and you can actually use the eggshell to get the yolk out of the egg. There we go, that should do it. I can go ahead and crack my other egg in this bowl as well. Okay, so.
Alright, so now the first thing we're going to do is preheat the oven to 350 degrees. So I've done that. For the topping, we're going to take a small saucepan, so we're going to use about this size, and combine the cranberries, half the sugar, or a quarter of a cup, and the orange juice. And we're going to put this on about a medium heat. Because if you start cooking it too quickly, then your cranberries are just going to burn. Nobody wants burnt cranberries. So we're going to cook this uncovered over medium heat, like I said before, until the cranberries pop and the mixture thickens slightly. You're going to want to make sure that you stir this frequently to prevent it from sticking to the bottom.
So while Cassidy's stirring the sauce, we're going to go ahead and make our filling. In a bowl, you're going to want to combine the cream cheese, the rest of the sugar, we'll get that up there, the egg and the egg white together, and our vanilla. We're going to use a food processor here, but you could use just a mixer and get the same result. You're going to want to mix this until it's smooth, scraping the bowl occasionally with a spatula to make sure it mixes up well. So once again, we're using that spatula to make sure we get everything down on the inside of our food processor. Okay, I think that does it just fine. When you're done, you're just going to want to set this aside. We're going to use it in a minute. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to make our phyllo dough crust.
Working with the phyllo dough can be a little tough because it is very fragile. Don't worry if it tears, it'll cook up just fine.
Actually, before we get started with the phyllo dough, let's actually check with Cassidy because it looks like her cranberries are just about ready.
Alright, so here's what your cranberries should look like. So as you can see, they're not really in the big balls anymore. They're all popped and have kind of condensed down to this almost syrupy consistency. And cranberries are a great source of antioxidants and vitamin C, which helps protect our bodies from illness and disease.
Okay, the first thing you're going to want to do is take your cooking spray and actually give a good spray to your pie pan that you're going to be using to bake everything in. Okay, next up you're going to lay out your phyllo dough. You're going to want to open this at the last minute because it does dry out pretty quickly. And so you do have to be careful with that and kind of work a little bit quick. Okay, so you just take it out of the package. And then the whole thing just unrolls. Okay, so there's our phyllo dough sheets. So the next thing you're going to do is you're going to take your phyllo dough and actually give it a little spray on that top sheet with your butter spray. Okay, then you're going to carefully grab your top sheet, just fold it over on itself, just like so, and then carefully take this, peel that sheet off, and then you're just going to lay it in your pan, being careful to kind of press it down into the edges. You don't have to press too hard, but just get them down in there, okay? Then you're going to take your next sheet, give it a spray. Okay. Oh, don't forget to give this a spray as well, because remember that side is dry. So once again, you're just going to take and fold it over itself one time, pick it up, and then you're going to want to paste it in your pie pan just across from your other phyllo dough, pressing it down a little bit, and then giving it a little bit of buttery spray. You're going to basically repeat this process until you have the whole bottom of the pan covered with phyllo dough. Okay, so this is what your pan is going to look like once you finish putting all of your phyllo dough in. Now that we're done, we're just going to take and put it in our 350-degree oven for about 5 minutes. One thing you do want to do though is kind of take these edges and just fold them over lightly and just make sure they're all kind of sticking together. These are going to brown up and crisp really nice and actually give the edges a nice crunch for you. Fold those over. I notice some of these are a little dry, so I'm going to give them a little bit of a spray. All right, now we're going to put this in the oven for 5 minutes and then we'll work from there.
All right, so it looks like our crust is done. So we're going to go ahead and take that out. We're going to let it cool just for a few minutes before we put the cream cheese mixture in, just so it doesn't melt. So now we're going to spoon the cream cheese mixture into the phyllo crust, and you want to make sure to spread it evenly. That way you don't have one side that's higher than the other and it can bake all funny and it won't be as pretty. So. You can see I'm just kind of pushing it towards the edges a little bit just to make sure there's no gaps in there. We don't want to be wasteful, so we'll scrape the edge of it. Just make sure we get all that we can. Alright, and just kind of give it one more smooth over, make sure it's nice and even. If you hit the crust a little bit like I did and it broke off, that's all good. Alright, so we're going to set that aside. Put that over there. Thank you, Steve. So now you're going to spoon the cranberry mixture on top, and we're going to marble it, and I'll show you how to do that. So I'm just going to kind of do some little dollops in different parts of it. That way it's not, you know, just cranberry in the middle or on the side. That works. Okay, set that back aside. So now we're going to marble it. So you're going to take something just like a butter knife, and you're going to kind of go through where the cranberry is, and you just kind of do this back and forth motion. You want to try and drag it out as much as you can and get it to kind of spread out. You can see it likes to kind of stay in chunks, but we're gonna work with that so that doesn't happen. All right. So that's what it's going to kind of look like. And then we're going to go ahead and put it back into the oven for about 20 to 25 minutes. The phyllo dough is going to kind of lightly brown some more, and the filling is going to set, so it's not going to be really liquidy anymore. You can kind of shake it and it shouldn't slosh around. So it looks like our cake is done. There you go. We're going to put this on a wire rack and let it cool for about 1 hour. The reason you're putting it on the wire rack is so that air can actually go underneath and cool it faster than just setting it on your counter. And then once it's cooled for an hour on the rack, then we're going to put it in the fridge and cool for another 4 hours.
You can always change up the recipe by using different kinds of fruit like blueberries, raspberries, or even cherries.
All these provide your body with nutrients it needs to function and be healthy.
We hope you enjoyed this video and thank you for joining us today.
For more delicious and nutritious recipes, be sure to like and subscribe to the link below to follow RHN WIC.